Let me tell you 3 things we need to do to turn this nation around. Number 1, we need to stand for liberty. Liberty has never been more under assault than it is right now. This administration, it seems, this president is trying to go down the Bill of Rights and violate each and every one of them. You know, we look at the IRS that doesn't respect the First Amendment, is going after individual citizens saying, tell us what books you're reading, tell us the content of your prayers. Let me tell you something. The federal government has no business asking any American the content of our prayers. You look at the Second Amendment. Vice President Joe Biden. Joe Biden said, if anybody attacks your house, just go outside with a double-barreled shotgun and fire both barrels in the air. Now listen, that is very, very good advice. If it so happens you're being attacked by a flock of geese. You look at the Fourth and Fifth Amendments, our right to privacy. How many of y'all have your cell phones? I'd like to ask you, please leave your cell phones on. I want to make sure President Obama hears every word I had to say today. You look at the 10th Amendment with the federal government trying to intrude into the prerogatives of the states all across the board, things like trying to set educational standards. Let me tell you right now, we need to repeal Common Core. And then there is the pattern of lawlessness in this administration. Ignoring law after law after law. If this president doesn't agree with the law, he refuses to enforce it, whether it's immigration laws or welfare laws or marriage laws or drug laws. And then you take Obamacare. Please take Obamacare. 30 times this president has simply unilaterally changed the law. There's no authority in the law for that. How many of y'all remember 6th grade civics? You remember Schoolhouse Rock, how a bill becomes a law? Apparently the president missed that day. We have never had a president assert the authority to ignore and unilaterally change the law the way this president is doing so. And this should trouble everyone, not just Republicans, but Democrats, independents, libertarians, anyone who cares about rule of law and the Constitution. Because when you have a president who can pick and choose which laws to follow and which laws to ignore, then you no longer have a president. So we need to, number 1, stand for liberty. Number 2, we need to stand for growth and opportunity. You want to know why people are frustrated out of their mind at Washington? The biggest divide we've got in this country, it's not between Democrats and Republicans. It is between entrenched politicians in both parties in Washington and the American people. And all across this country, people are frustrated, going, what is wrong with them? They get elected, they go to Washington, and they stop listening to us. They stop listening. The top priority of the American people is jobs and economic growth. And in the year and a half I've been in Harry Reid's Senate, we haven't spent even a minute talking about jobs and economic growth. It simply isn't a priority. We haven't talked about fundamental tax reform. And I'll tell you the most important tax reform, we should abolish the IRS. For 5 years, we have been trapped in the great stagnation under President Obama. His policies are not working. And, you know, the rich and powerful, those who walk the corridors of power, are getting fat and happy under the Obama economic agenda. The top 1%, the millionaires and billionaires the president loves to demagogue, they earn a higher share of our national income than any year since 1928. But not to worry, nothing bad happened after 1928. The people who have been hurt the most by the Obama economy are the most vulnerable among us. It's young people, it's Hispanics, it's African Americans, it's single moms. It's people who are struggling to climb the economic ladder and to reach the American dream. And that leads to my third and final point. How do we turn this country around? Empower the people. The answers are not going to come from Washington. The book of Ecclesiastes tells us there's nothing new under the sun. I think where we are right now is eerily, is uncannily like the late 1970s. Late 1970s, you had Jimmy Carter in the White House. You had the same failed economic policies, out of control spending and taxes and regulation, produced the exact same misery and stagnation. You had the same feckless foreign policy, the same naivete, making the world a much, much more dangerous place. And all across this country, we saw a grassroots movement of millions of men and women who came together and became the Reagan Revolution. Now, that didn't come from Washington. Washington despised Ronald Reagan. It came from the American people. The reason I am optimistic is I'm blessed to have the opportunity serving in the Senate to travel across the country. Let me tell you, the same thing is happening all over this country. People are waking up. Men and women have never been involved in politics. They're looking up going, what is happening to this country? We're losing our freedom. We're losing the future for our kids and grandkids. Let's get back. Let's get back to the free market principles. Let's get back to the constitutional liberties that this nation was built on. I don't know if you remember the movie The Usual Suspects, where it talked about the greatest trick the devil ever played was to convince the world he didn't exist. Well, the greatest lie that the media tries to play is to convince us that the American people don't believe in the values this country was built on. It's simply not true. If you listen to Democrats, if you listen to the media, although I repeat myself, they will tell you there is no hope. They will tell you we cannot turn this around. They will tell you you cannot stop Obamacare. They will tell you that Kathleen Sebelius resigning is a result of Obamacare's success. Well, if that's true, then I hope every Democrat will follow her path and resign as well. You want to see the power of the grassroots? Last summer, last fall, millions of Americans rose up and said, we don't want the train wreck, we don't want the disaster, we don't want the suffering that is coming from Obamacare. And as a result of so many millions of Americans saying that, we elevated the debate. And where are we right now today as a result of your efforts? Today, President Obama is at his lowest approval rating he has ever been in 6 years in office. Today, Obamacare is at its lowest approval rating it's ever been since the day it was signed into law. If you want to know where the country is, it is often a good barometer to look at the late-night comics. Last fall, Jay Leno said, So, President Obama called me. He said, Jay, if you like your job, you can keep it. Let me tell you something. As a result of the men and women in this room, as the result of millions of men and women standing up and saying Obamacare is a disaster, it is not working, it is hurting millions of Americans, I am convinced we are going to repeal every single word of Obamacare.